Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Climb, the Confident Leader podcast, where we share the stories of leaders moving from invisible to becoming an influencer. I'm your host, Rahul Karan Sharma, and today I have an amazing guest who is an elite mindset architect, global keynote speaker, and two-time best-selling author who helps athletes, CEOs, and high-level competitors train their mind like a weapon and win under pressure. After a decorated hockey career, our guest spent over a decade as a professional skills coach working with NHL, NCAA, junior and youth athletes across North America. Today, he's known for building the mental toughness, clarity, and execution that separate the best from everyone else. He is the founder of Mental Hedge Hockey, working with clients across US, Canada, and Europe. He's featured in top podcasts in the performance and leadership space and is trusted by athletes, teams, and organizations who want real results fast. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome one and only Sandy Cohan, the founder of Mental Edge Hockey, to our show. How are you doing, Sandy, today?
I'm doing great. That was very well said. I know that was a mouthful, but you did great.
Thank you. Thank you, my friend.
Yeah,
It's a pleasure to have you on our show.
thank
And
you.
it's always good to have someone coming from sports and teaching to the corporates about the learnings, about the lesson that we learn from sports and we bring to the corporate environment. So I always admire that. I have been an avid sports person and I bring lessons from sports throughout my journey. So I'm very excited for our conversation today.
Terrific. Yeah, thanks again.
So let's start with how did that happen for you moving from a professional sports career to what you are doing today? Can you give a rundown about your journey to our audience, please?
Sure. Well, when my playing career was over, I got into the coaching side. But on the skill side, I wasn't coaching teams or um, anything other than working with, select professional hockey players in my case. A lot of Olympians, a lot of college players, and I was on their skill development. And I spent about 10 to 12 years doing that. Absolutely loved it. But what I started really taking an interest in, probably halfway through that was, everybody out there was best of the best. These are some of the best, performers in their sport in the world. But even at that level, where everybody's skill was very, very similar, there were a lot of folks that stood out, and it wasn't necessarily their on ice or athletic skills that were making them stand out. But those were the ones that kept progressing. Those were the ones that made it. And when I say it, I'm really just talking about maximizing their potential. So that really kind of took me down a different path. On the mindset space, and that really is what I've been doing ever since for the past 10 years, exclusively in the mindset space, which is the foundation for everything. Not just for athletes, for anybody sitting at their job or anything. Mindset is the piece. So, my business branched out after a couple years, and it wasn't just working with athletes. Started getting calls from organizations, companies, executives, um, and that really became a time when started giving speeches, started writing books, and just love where the journey has taken me. I never thought that I would be in this place,
Hmm.
to be having impact on others,
Hmm.
but that's something that means a great deal to me. So it's been a crazy ride, but I'm loving all of it.
Awesome. That's so nice to hear that the way you are impacting today's leaders. And let me ask you this: so, when you were playing professionally, uh, did you ever thought that you will do what you're doing today? And two, what kind of mindset shift you had to go through to become the person who you are today?
Yep. Well, first to clarify, I played at a really, really high level. I was coaching professionally, wasn't playing professionally at the time. But um you know, times are different than when we were younger. It's not better, worse. It's just different.
Mm,
And I think somewhere along the way, the concept of grit, belief, um, stick to itiveness, focus, I think those have kind of gotten washed under the rug a little bit. Um, so these were not skills that I think I had dialed in when I was younger. I wish that I did. Um, Again, it was a different time, but what I have learned since is I haven't met any high achiever in any field, any high performer that doesn't have that story or chapter of it being messy.
mhm,
And I think at that point, that really is where learned skills have to take over because there's really 2 choices, are you gonna pack it in and walk away, or are you gonna find a way through?
mm,
Um, and I think those are learned skills. So I didn't know this at the time. I wish that I had, um, but there is no doubt, looking back at my playing career, at everything I've done in the sport, that talent is relevant. Talent can move needles, but mindset is what moves mountains.
mm. Talent is what moves needle, but it's the mindset that moves mountains. Wow.
Yep.
That's epic, and that's the first golden nugget from my perspective, dropped
Oh,
in by
nice.
Sandy.
Nice.
Talents move the needles, but it's the mindset that move the mountains.
Yeah.
So epic. And uh, so when you work with the Olympians and the CEOs, high executives, have you noticed any common aspect that defocuses them or kind of work as a focus breaker?
Yes. So two things, right? Because we've all heard those speeches, where someone gets up there and they're talking about you just got to believe, you got to have confidence, you got to get up when you fall down. All of that stuff is relevant, and I spend a lot of my time in a message that's similar, but where I think the real work has to be done is it's almost the work before the work. That for so many, I think they're sitting there when they hear a message like that and they say, "Well, you don't understand what I'm going through. You don't know my past." And while that's relevant,
Mhm,
that issue of having residue, it's almost like the work that I do, it works, and for many other people like me, but it's almost, how do you show up to the starting line? Like, and you can't be carrying the residue, the fear, shame of something, right? And we all have that. Um, but I think that most people don't understand, and why would they if not taught, how important the concept of focus is.
mhm,
Um, what focus really means is not blocking out. Focus is locking in. Those are 2 very different concepts. Um, and I think a lot of people struggle with the concept of confidence and belief. Um, my perspective, I had someone say this to me when I was probably 12 or 13. I wish that I came up with it. I didn't. Um, because this coach at the time was always talking about the concept of belief. As athletes, we were always talking about the concept of confidence, right? So we didn't know what the difference was. And I've never forgotten this. And he said, if you look outside and think of a tree, what you see above ground, that's confidence. What you don't see below ground, that's belief. So in the
mm,
world of that tree, like no roots, no tree, no belief, no confidence. So I spend a lot of time, whether it's a business organization, a leader, an athlete, really helping them tap into the concept of belief. And when you believe, the place where you end up
mm,
is a place of confidence. But it's very hard to just say, I want to be confident. I want to be confident, and to go chase confidence.
mm,
Um, so again, I don't think most people would know how to do that, but I think what a lot of the high performers, I think, share, um, is they tend to live a life of standards,
Mm-hmm.
um, that are backed up by habits.
Mm.
They might not know exactly how to direct them, but the best of the best, they lean on discipline, not motivation, and they have habits, not just hopeful routines.
Well, Sandy, let me share that in this last response, there are so many things going in my mind. Probably, oh, we can,
Yeah,
all the other things that we already planned to talk, we'll have to have another episode.
whatever you want.
But what I want to hear you mention on focus is not about blocking out, but is
Yep.
locking in. Can you share more information? What do you
Yes.
mean by locking in so that the listeners, the leaders, they really know the true difference and not just focusing on those power hours. So in my corporate career, we used to talk about the power hours, blocking out an hour time where they just dedicate themselves to do that one task.
Yep.
For some it worked, for some it did not. So I'm also curious to know what this locking in really
Yep.
means,
Yep.
and how we can make it happen.
I think the first thing is just understanding how kind of the brain works, right? And
Mm,
Simon Sinek has this famous, kind of example where he looks at a crowd and he says, "Your brain cannot comprehend. Our brains don't comprehend the negatives."
mm,
And he says, "I'll prove it to you." And he says, "Okay, right now, everybody, don't think about an elephant." And of course, the whole room thinks about an elephant, right? I did too. Everybody does. So that's the first thing to understand, that I know a lot of times we are trying to tell ourselves what not to think, but that's not the way the brain works. So like the don't think abouts, don't be nervous, don't be late, don't turn the ball over for athletes, or don't say something stupid in a meeting. The minute we start entertaining those don't think abouts, what we're really doing is inviting our brain to go back to that bad moment, and then
mhm,
we try to like clutch, and scratch our way out. Whereas it's a very, very easy process,
mm,
that just fill the brain with the do wants. The brain can only handle so much.
mm,
So the concept of locking in, I think a lot of time, if we put it into athlete terms, don't be nervous, don't turn the ball over, don't strike out. Really what we're saying is, what we're trying to do is, okay, have fun, be passionate. That's the other side of don't be nervous. But the brain doesn't understand the opposite of don't be nervous, right? So locking in is, most people don't have to spend any more time trying to block out the things that they don't want. Let the noise stay. What we want to do is focus on those things that we do want in the positive, and what we start to see as the other stuff may or may not still be there, but it has nothing to do with us. So I often use that concept of like being very narrow. Being focused is very, very narrow. It doesn't mean 55 different things.
mm,
Um, and anytime I'm in like a corporate setting, I always say to everybody, okay, look out the window. Hey, there's a bird, there's a tree, there's the mailman, there's a car. That's not focus. That's awareness. That's
mm,
this, right? Focus would be like looking into a mirror. So everything from the mindset space, call it what you want, mental performance mindset, it
mhm.
starts with that concept of focus. And most people spend so much time trying to push things out when they can take a 180-degree turn, lock in on what it is that you do want, and then be all in on that.
Wow. The moment you mentioned about, you started talking about locking in, uh, you made me remind, or you made me go to the memory lane. Last year, something happened with my son, and he was drinking his OJ in a glass, and I just told him, "Hey, just be careful, don't drop it."
Yeah.
And immediately he told me, now, Papa, you told me not to drop. Now, my mind is still thinking, okay,
That's right.
will drop, it will drop. So that's what you just mentioned. We need to avoid thinking about the don'ts and focus on the do's, because another thing which our mind is my mind does, it does not differentiate between what is real and what is imaginary.
That's right.
So that really helps you if you just focus on do's.
You know, the crazy thing, just one other thing on that
Mm,
is, if we have the power to kind of stop the mental tape wherever we want.
mm,
Right, but sometimes as humans, I don't care, athlete, a teacher, a CEO, we tend to pause the tape on those really bad moments. We burn those into the brain, um, maybe almost so we can remember them, so we don't do them anymore, but that's the beauty of kind of the mindset piece, is that we can stop the tape where you can stop it wherever you want. So,
mm,
so much of the confidence part, when I help somebody with belief, I often, for an athlete, I could say to them, "Okay, think about a play you made last year, the best play of the season. Maybe it was a shot, a goal, a pitch, whatever it was. Everybody went nuts. Your family was there. The coach was going crazy. Your teammates were going crazy. I want you to think about that play. Think about that moment." And I know when they have it, because they immediately start to smile. And I say, "Okay, you don't have to tell me anything about the moment, but I bet you can remember, where you were, like which gym or which field or which, court you were on. Yep, yep. I bet you can remember the jerseys you were wearing. Yep, yep, yep. Um, I bet you get like a little fire in your belly, feeling good. You can hear the noise, the crowd." They say, "Yep, yep." And I say, "Do you know what that feeling is called?" I said, "That feeling is called confidence."
mm.
But the way that we got there, it takes 10 seconds. We just tapped into a memory of when they already had done, and then we kinda brought it forward. So I
Wow.
spend a lot of time with people, that could be an executive, it could be anything, closing a big deal, but
Mhm.
that's belief.
Very well said. And I think you just have solved a jigsaw puzzle here on getting confidence in less than 10 seconds. It is all about having a repository of those great memories, those
Yep,
good moments. And whenever you are low in confidence, whenever you are nervous, just think of those memory lane. I mean, like how we have a repository of a lot of other things, you
yep.
can have a repository of these good memories or good stories that you can review just before when you're going for those high stakes meetings, or when that confidence or is coming in low, or that nervousness is coming in low. So
Yep, you know what, a lot of times I was speaking recently and there were some younger people there and they were telling me about, I can't remember the term, but it's right before they click into a Zoom meeting and they're the guest and the host hasn't let them in yet, and they can see that little thing turning on the screen, and that's when like real, like kind of anxious and nervous. Um and my suggestion to them was, just remember that typically being nervous or fearful or anxious, which that happens to all of us, that really is like what you said earlier, that's the brain not living right now.
mhm.
That's in the future or in the past. That's not right now. So I always try to encourage people to remember that thoughts are just thoughts. Thoughts aren't facts. Doesn't mean that it's going to happen, doesn't mean that it might happen, doesn't mean that it will happen. So before we start running away with a story, on your way to work, you're driving and you're, thinking something, or in that moment, when you're getting nervous, I always encourage people to say, "I don't know the answer, but are there any facts to support the conclusion?" "Oh, I'm the worst speaker," or I'm the worst player on the team," or "I'm not going to close this deal." I don't know the answer, but before you start running with that thought, are there any facts to support that? Because if not, then thoughts are just thoughts.
Very well said. And as we know that a human mind gets almost 60,000 thoughts in a 24-hour period, and unfortunately 90% of them are negative. So if you go into the thoughts more, then you will always be thinking not positive, because
Yep.
that's how the mind is working. So you need to take that conscious effort to inject those positivity to your mind by
Yes.
talking and thinking about things that you are good at, things to do rather than things not to do. So
Yeah. Yep.
And Sandy, in so far, one of the very consistent word or phrase I've listened from you in last 15 minutes is around the focus, focus. So, in your experience, can we train focus like a muscle?
Yes.
Is that something, a silver bullet or a magic wand that people can take, or maybe a guidance from you that it can be trained, it can be more like a muscle memory? Your thoughts, please.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I preface this by saying I did not know these things as a younger student, as a younger athlete. Um, I was tenacious. I was very, very gritty. But I didn't have the complete mindsets supporting space. So a lot of these things I had learned, been taught, been shown, failed at many, many times. So yeah, not only can it be taught, but it has to be practiced. Um, it has to be repeated. But I think what a lot of people miss is that really everything in their life, their work life, their home life, their sports life, whatever it is, it basically has to fall into one of three buckets. That's it. You can either control it, you can impact it, or you have to let it go. It's one of those three places. And the irony is that the things that are the only things that can be controlled are your belief, your attitude, your grit, your focus, your emotions, your discipline, your self awareness, not your outcomes. Outcomes can be impacted. And I know we are a very outcome based society and people in their jobs or in sports. I get it. Results matter. My approach though is what's the best way to help someone get to become the best version of themselves?
Mhm.
And the only way to do that is to know what you can control and to know that outcomes are what we're chasing. But really, the only way to get there is by focusing on the actions and behaviors that lead to those outcomes. So that's a pretty empowering thing, I think, when people learn, you know, it's almost like I'm making a cake. I don't know how to make cakes. But if
Mhm.
you gave me a bunch of ingredients and said, okay, you mean I just add this to this to this to this to this? Like, I can do that. Um, so that's really kinda where I go with it.
Correct. And I think the learning that I am taking from this piece is, uh, for you to make focus as a muscle memory, focus on things that you can control. And many of us, we tend to think, or we tend to focus on things that are not in our control. And that's where we at times go wrong. The things that we cannot control, thinking about it will not give us any result. So think about aspects that you can control. So that's a great,
Yeah.
addition that you did, Sandy, on around focus, and I really appreciate you sharing that. Now, Sandy, when I was doing my research, I also got to know that you have a new book coming this January. Uh, would you be open to share the core message of that book, and how do you think it will help leaders who are currently stuck or simply not giving their best?
So the first book that I wrote was, is called 99 Rules Every Athlete Needs to Know.
Mm,
Um, and, I was not a big reader when I was younger. I wanna preface that, but this is the type of book that I would have wanted to have read, you know? You can open up to any page, the book is full of little nuggets as you talked about. There's a rule, maybe 6 or 7 supporting lines and almost like a mic drop memory sorta line. Um, it did pretty well. It is a good crossover. A lot of business, people can also look at it. A lot of the concepts are the same.
mhm,
So then the second one, I had some people say, "Well, what about us? What about the parents of these athletes?" So the next
mhm.
one was 99 rules every sports parent needs to know. Um, Really to, raise confident athletes and great human beings because that ultimately that's the goal, right? Once everybody ends up stop playing.
Mm.
Um, so then I came back and I wanted to write another book that really didn't even have the word sport in it. Um, that really is a crossover book for leaders, executives, anybody that's just wants to learn how to be unshakable under fire. So the last one is 99 rules to be unshakable under fire.
Wow.
Written in kind of the same format, just quick. I love the fact that people can kind of take the books with them. They can mark them up. They can highlight them. I never thought I'd be in a place where I was saying I've written books, and then people were reading them and enjoying them. But that really has been probably one of the most rewarding things for me is to be able to um have impact on people, to share what I've learned, much of which was from doing it probably the wrong way.
Mhm.
Um, and really just giving people a tool maybe that we didn't have when we were younger,
Mhm.
a resource. None of them are like how-to books. Like it's not how to parent, it's not how to be a great athlete. These are concepts and rules about the world that I live in, that belief, attitude, grit in that world. Um, so I'm looking forward to it. Next book's coming out and it's hopefully it's gonna be as successful as the others.
I'm very confident it will definitely be successful. Listeners, if you are a sports person, order 99 Rules, the first book of Sandy. If you're a sport parent like me, then you need to order the second book, which he wrote about sports parent and how you can inspire, how you can really motivate your kids. And the one which is coming out is probably will be applicable to most of the leaders, most of us, is how to build that unshakable confidence and make sure that we are having that focus that really allow us to do the greatness that we have in all of us. So thank you, Sandy, for writing those books. It's really amazing, and I'm sure it will be a super duper hit as soon as it release.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
All right. And then now, if those leaders who are listening to us and have this inclination to work with you, to bring you in their organizations, what are some of the best way for them to work? And from your perspective, what would they get out of engaging with you versus someone else?
Yeah,
Any
I love
thoughts?
that. I love that. Thank you for that question. So they can go to my website, sandycohan.com, and all the information about different keynotes are there, how to get in touch with me. I absolutely love chatting with people. I've done all sorts of events, big, small. So please don't be apprehensive to reach out. I just love being able to help. Um, I I feel confident about the difference for me is that I spend a lot of time on the customization aspect of it, um, and on connection. I understand that I could sit up there and bark out a whole bunch of stuff and a whole bunch of PowerPoint slides, but if it doesn't relate, if I can't connect with the people sitting there, if I can't find out more about where they are, and I think really just kind of strip away some of the different levels. My big thing is connection, a lot of energy, total accessibility, and I spend a lot of time talking about not just the work, but the work before the work,
Mhm.
understanding that we all carry that residue. Everybody in an audience, when I say, I know you're sitting there thinking, I know, but you don't know my story. It's like everybody's head shaking and my head would be shaking also because that's how we kind of operate. But I try to go back to the beginning, not necessarily the bottom, um, and just give them a different perspective. One that I think is superhuman and applicable to all of them, and they can start, you know, seeing the differences quick in their own lives, and that's a pretty powerful thing.
Wow. So, leaders, if you're thinking why your employees, why your team members are not giving their best, why they are not able to unleash their true potential, I think it's a time for you to give a call to Sandy and bring him up to unleash the true potential of your team members. And that will be happening from that inside perspective. The example that Sandy gave about the tree, what we see is a very good leafy tree, but what made it to be a leafy, what it made
That's
it to
right.
be a healthy tree is all about this foundation, the roots that we don't see. So
And even
that,
even to a lot of the executives out there and the leaders or anybody in I don't know how anybody would know how to do this. I didn't, just because you built a great company or, you've been so tenacious and came up with this great idea and this I think a lot of times people think when they mention the word mindset or mental performance, they think about some sort of weakness, that oh, I'm not broken. Like I don't work with broken people. That's not the world that I live in, but I do tell all of these executives or whoever it is that mindset is the foundation of the building. And I don't care what you're trying to, however big you want your building to be,
Mhm.
you can't be disappointed that the third floor balcony is not right if your foundation of your building is not strong. Like it's not about that, it's about the foundation. So um, I love working with people who are open to a different perspective. And I think there is no more important perspective than mindset.
Mm,
It is number one.
awesome. Well, thank you for sharing your thoughts. I think it's been amazing to listen to you, to understand that focus can also be built like a muscle. So that's so amazing. Now, Sandy, we are coming to close to our episode. I want to move into that rapid fire round. 5 questions will be coming to you, and our listeners will want to learn more about you as a person. All right.
Let's do it.
Okay. So the first one, what is one quotation that you live by?
If it's easy, everybody would do it.
Very good. Are you a morning person or a night owl?
Absolutely. Morning person all the way.
Okay. What's one daily routine you never skip?
Wake up, mess with the dogs, cup of coffee, and read something for an hour.
Excellent. What's one leadership skill you wish someone would have taught you earlier?
Listen,
Okay.
listening.
Okay. The last one, if your career have to be a Netflix series, what would be the title of season one be?
I think it would be find a way. Find a way.
Okay. I'm very confident it will be a blockbuster on Netflix,
Are
my
you
friend.
producing it? Are you producing it?
I don't mind. I mean, the kind of concept that we have been talking about,
Yeah.
I think it's a no-brainer. Everything is about mindset, and if our series can tell people how to find a way, I'm sure it will make millions. So great, man. Thank you. Now, what I would want to do is I want to share my learnings from the show. And listeners, if you're listening to us on Spotify or watching us on YouTube, it's time for you to put in comments about your biggest takeaway. Even if you are listening to us on Spotify, you can leave comments there, or you can leave comments on YouTube. We would love to hear your comments because that's what fuel us. That's what motivate us as the anchor of this aspect around mindset. So, my learning, the first one was talent moves needle. It is the mindset that moves mountains. So, if you are looking to really make a difference, focus on the mindset. Focus on doing things that are in your control and that are very much intrinsic. Many of us, we tend to look outside, but what we learned today is it's all about inside. It's all about things that are in our control. So that was one. The other big piece for me was focus can be trained like a muscle, and focus is not blocking out that extra hour or that 25-minute block. Focus is all about locking in. Focus is about that zeroing in. When you use a camera, how you zoom in, that's what locking in is all about when it comes to focus. And I think Sandy gave a very good example about the tree. When we see a tree, a very healthy tree, we do not see what is inside. And that healthy tree is just like confidence. You see that confidence, but what makes that confidence, or what makes you confident, is the belief, which is, as Sandy mentioned, the root of that tree. So you need to have that belief system. You need to focus on creating those habits, those routine that really make you confident the way you are, or the way you want to be. Another aspect on confidence, and he also mentioned that it does not take more than 10 to 20 seconds. And how he explained was, have a repository of some great memories, great moments that you had in your life. And whenever you're nervous, whenever you're low in confidence, think of those memories, think of those stories. It will really bring that goosebump, and it would really boost your confidence to make things happen. The other aspect was, focus on don't always just focus on the outcome, because outcome you cannot control. What you can control is your action. What you can control is your habits. What you can control is where to give time, which activity to give time. That is all in your control. So as long as you are focusing on those aspects, it will be a clear winner. And towards the end, Sandy also mentioned about his upcoming book, which is coming in January, 99 Rules to Build Unshakable Confidence, or
To be unshakable under fire.
Unshakable on the Fire. Awesome. And we will include on the show notes Sandy's website, where you can pre-book your his new book and listen to him and know more about his offerings, know more about his previous books. So with that said, I really thank you again, Sandy, for being on the show. It has been an utmost pleasure to share your journey and to share what you are bringing up to our audience, and the impact that you are making to leaders globally. Thank you, my friend. Really appreciate
Thank
it.
you. I appreciate the opportunity.